need to stop popping up. Like,
do you know me?
No, I don't know you, and I don't want to. No,
Just
I don't.
get my face,
I don't know you.
She doing too much, dude.
You don't want to know you.
We don't care, bitch.
So everybody, this is Jasmine.
That's Rashida's job?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Job.
Hey, Jasmine, how you doing?
Me and Tiara cool, I ain't gonna lie. I invited her, but I ain't know Tiara was gonna bring Jasmine.
The night was supposed to be calm, just a simple grand opening, a little shade, a little glitter, and the usual love and hip-hop tension simmering under the surface. But the second Jasmine walked through those doors, uninvited and unannounced, the energy shifted like a storm warning. Spice felt it first, the air tightening, the room tilting, the kind of déjà vu that makes old wounds sting all over again. Jasmine wasn't there to mingle. She wasn't there to smile. She wasn't even there to be messy. She came for answers. She came for Kirk. She came for war. Cast members froze mid-conversation as Jasmine's voice cut through the crowd. "Do you know me?" And Spice fired back instantly. "No, I don't know you, and I don't want to." The tension snapped like a whip. Cameras zoomed in. Security stepped closer. Kirk started backing toward the exit the moment he saw her, guilt written across his face like a confession. And before anyone could breathe, the argument exploded. Accusations flying, Jasmine refusing to back down, Spice refusing to let her ruin the night. But then, in one shocking moment that no one saw coming, Kirk Frost stepped forward, and everything spiraled out of control. Long before Jasmine crashed the grand opening, and before Spice and Kirk found themselves locked in the most explosive confrontation of the season, the roots of this drama had been spreading underground for years, fed by secrets, resentment, unfinished conversations, and wounds that were never allowed to fully heal. Jasmine Washington didn't just appear out of nowhere. She was a name tied to the Frost family, like a ghost that never stopped haunting the marriage. Years ago, when her situation with Kirk first surfaced, it wasn't just a cheating scandal. It was a public humiliation Rashida had to swallow in front of the world. But what the viewers never fully saw was how deeply Jasmine was left to navigate everything alone. Pregnancy, backlash, the vicious judgment of the internet, and a narrative she couldn't control. She tried to move on, but her life kept circling back to the same man who brought her joy and chaos in equal parts. Meanwhile, Kirk Frost built a reputation on smiling through storms and slipping through scandals with quick apologies, business deals, and a strangely calm detachment that only made people wonder what he wasn't saying. He sent his child support checks. He made his public amends. He did the work. But behind closed doors, there were still unanswered questions, late-night texts that never got replies, messages Jasmine sent seeking clarity that Kirk left unread, and unresolved moments that clung to them like shadows. And then there was Spice, loud, proud, raw, and unfiltered, the self-appointed guardian of Rashida's peace. Spice had always watched Jasmine with narrowed eyes, ready to pounce at the smallest sign of disrespect. To her, Jasmine represented a past Rashida deserved to forget. To Jasmine, Spice was a wall blocking the one conversation she needed to have. A conversation about her son, a child who wasn't just a storyline, but a real person needing answers. The tragedy was that both women were exhausted. Spice from constantly defending her friend's marriage, Jasmine from trying to give her son the identity and fatherhood he deserved. Still, they never understood each other because they were trapped in opposite corners of someone else's chaos. And as for Rashida, her absence that night wasn't accidental. She had no idea the storm coming her way, only that the past had once again found its way into her world. The club's atmosphere was already tense before Jasmine arrived. Cast members whispered, the energy felt thick, and even the cameras sensed something different in the air. Kirk didn't expect to see Jasmine that evening. If he had, he would have avoided the event like plague. But Jasmine didn't come to stir chaos. She came because she felt ignored, dismissed, and tired of being painted as the villain. She wanted Kirk to finally acknowledge their son in a real way, face to face, not through paperwork or checks mailed quietly in the background. She wanted a moment of accountability, but instead of a calm conversation, she walked into a room filled with Rashida's closest allies, women who viewed her presence as disrespect, provocation, or a revival of old wounds they wished would stay dead. Spice didn't hesitate to confront her, and Jasmine, already frustrated and overwhelmed, responded with fire of her own. The air inside the club grew heavier with every word, every stare, every flash of attitude. Old memories resurfaced, Jasmine remembering Kirk promising he would step up more, Spice remembering the pain she saw Rashida endure, Kirk remembering the moment everything spiraled publicly. And underneath all of it lay the truth no one wanted to face. Jasmine didn't just want to be seen, she wanted to be heard. She came because her son, the child at the center of all this drama, deserved clarity. But Spice's instinct was to protect Rashida, and Kirk's instinct was to escape before anything dangerous was exposed. That combination was a recipe built for disaster, and by the time Jasmine stepped into that club, there was no universe where the night didn't explode. Every emotion bottled over years, pain, guilt, anger, betrayal, rose to the surface. Jasmine's arrival wasn't the start of the drama. It was the moment the past finally caught Kirk Frost in a place without exits. Spice wasn't fighting Jasmine. She was fighting to protect her friend's heart. And Kirk wasn't running from Jasmine. He was running from the truth he hoped would never come out in front of cameras again. The stage was set long before the slap. It was years of secrets, years of resentment, years of silence breaking open at once. And none of them, Spice, Jasmine, or Kirk, realized this confrontation wasn't just about the past. It was the beginning of a truth that was finally ready to explode. The moment Jasmine stepped fully into that VIP section, the entire atmosphere shifted from tension to danger, like everyone felt the floor crack beneath them at the same time. She didn't walk in quietly. She walked in with fire in her eyes, determination in her voice, and years of frustration bubbling under her skin. Spice felt it instantly, the same way a warrior senses an enemy approaching. The two locked eyes like they had been waiting for this confrontation forever. "Why you keep popping up?" Spice snapped, hands on her hips, voice sharp enough to slice through the music. Jasmine didn't flinch. "I came to talk to Rashida so my son's father can finally step up. Why you pressed?" That one sentence sent a ripple through the room. Cast members froze. Security tensed. Kirk, who was already inching toward the exit like a guilty man trying to avoid Judgment Day, stopped breathing altogether. The lights seemed to dim as Jasmine asked the question again, louder this time. "Do you know me?" But Spice wasn't backing down. "No, and I don't want to," she said, stepping closer. "'Cause every time you show up, you do too much." The club went silent. Jasmine's eyes flickered with hurt, anger, and exhaustion, all fighting for space at the same time. She wasn't the villain Spice wanted her to be. She was a mother standing in front of the only group of people who could force Kirk to face the truth. But Spice didn't care about Jasmine's pain. She cared about Rashida's peace, and this confrontation felt like a direct attack. The energy snapped like electricity as Jasmine fired back. "Why you mad at me? I didn't cheat on Rashida. He did. But y'all drag me and treat him like a saint." The crowd gasped. Even Spice's face broke for a split second, showing a flicker of recognition. that Jasmine wasn't entirely lying, but loyalty blinded Spice faster than truth could reach her. "You don't get to talk about my friend's marriage," she spat. "You walked into her life and destroyed it." Jasmine's voice cracked. "I didn't destroy anything. Kirk walked into mine." And suddenly, all eyes turned to Kirk, whose face was turning red, whose jaw was tightening, whose guilt was leaking out of him like sweat. He looked cornered, exposed, terrified. That's when Spice snapped again, her voice loud enough for cameras in every corner to catch. "Why you here, Jasmine? What you want from us?" And Jasmine, finally tired of being ignored, dismissed, and treated like a storyline, spoke the truth she had been holding back for months. "I want Kirk to step up for his son. I want him to stop hiding behind Rashida and do what he's supposed to do. I'm done letting him disappear when my child needs him." The room exploded, shouting, gasps, cast members covering their mouths. That was the moment the whole night shifted. Because Jasmine wasn't there to fight Spice. She wasn't there to embarrass Rashida. She was there to expose Kirk. Spice stepped closer, her voice trembling with rage. "But why show up here? Why now? Why ruin someone's event?" Jasmine's voice broke. "Because every time I try to talk to him, he dodges me. Every time I reach out, he ignores me. Every time my son asks about him, I don't have answers. Y'all want me to be quiet so he can be comfortable." The truth stung the air like smoke. Kirk ran his hand over his head, pacing like a man ready to explode. "Jasmine, stop," he muttered, but she couldn't, not anymore. "You've been paying child support like it's charity," Jasmine said, voice rising. "But money doesn't make you a father. Showing up does, and you ain't showed up." Spice's face shifted, not with rage but shock, because for the first time, she saw Jasmine as a mother, not a threat. But loyalty is a tricky beast, and before she could say anything, Jasmine kept going. "I didn't pop up to start drama," she said. "I came because my son deserves the truth, or at least his father." Kirk stepped forward then, anger overwhelming guilt. "I've been doing what I'm supposed to," he snapped. "I send money. I follow the court. Following the court isn't fatherhood." Jasmine screamed. "You avoid me because you don't want Rashida to know the truth about what really happened." The club froze. Spice's eyebrows shot up. Cameras zoomed in. Cast members held their breath. What truth? What had Kirk been hiding? Kirk's panic filled the room like smoke. "Jasmine, don't go there." But it was too late. Jasmine had reached the breaking point. "Tell them," she said, pointing at Spice. "Tell everybody the promise you made, what you told me before all this came out." Kirk's eyes widened. He shook his head. "Jasmine, stop. Tell them," she screamed. And then she said it herself. "You told me you were leaving Rashida. You told me we would raise our son together." "You said it, not me." The shockwave that hit the room nearly knocked people off their feet. Spice gasped so loud it echoed. Kirk's mouth dropped open. Cast members scattered backward, and then, in one violent split second, unable to handle the truth spilling out, unable to stop the cameras, unable to control the narrative, Kirk Frost stepped forward and slapped Spice's hand away so hard she stumbled, nearly falling. The crowd screamed. Producers rushed in. Security grabbed Kirk. Spice's face twisted in disbelief and fury. Jasmine covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes, and everyone watching realized they hadn't even reached the worst part yet, because Spice wasn't the one Kirk meant to hit. He swung in Jasmine's direction first, and Jasmine knew why. Kirk was hiding something bigger than a broken promise. Something he never wanted filmed. Something that was about to explode. The second Spice stumbled from Kirk's swing, the room transformed from tension to full-blown chaos. Cast members screamed, security lunged, and the club's energy cracked like lightning striking the center of the floor. Spice's shock morphed into pure fire, eyes wide, breathing shaking, hands trembling as she stared at Kirk like she had just witnessed the deepest betrayal from someone she barely trusted to begin with. "You hit me for him," she shouted, voice raw with disbelief. Jasmine stood frozen, tears spilling down her cheeks as Kirk thrashed inside security's grip, yelling, "I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to." But everyone knew. He wasn't apologizing for the swing. He was panicking because the truth was slipping out faster than he could stop it. Spice stormed forward, pointing at him with fury that made even security hesitate. "You hit the wrong one," she hissed. "The person you should have swung at is the one whose lie's about to expose you." Jasmine's breath caught in her throat as every eye turned to her. She wasn't ready, not for this level of attention, not for the anger, not for the truth clawing at her chest. "I didn't come to fight," she said shakily. "I came because—" But before she could finish, a loud voice cut through the air like a blade. "Because you still lying." Everyone snapped their heads toward the entrance, where a figure stepped through the crowd. Rod, Jasmine's ex, the man who should have been nowhere near that club, the man who shared a twisted, tangled past with her that Kirk always refused to acknowledge existed. And the moment Jasmine saw him, her legs nearly gave out. "No," she whispered. "Rod, please, not now." But Rod wasn't here to negotiate. He wasn't here to protect Jasmine. He wasn't even here for Kirk. He was here because the truth that Jasmine and Kirk both buried had finally reached its expiration date. Rod walked straight into the circle, ignoring security, ignoring cameras, ignoring the chaos. He held up his phone, screen glowing, something pulled up that made Jasmine's heart stop. "You came here to expose Kirk?" Rod scoffed. "Nah, you came here to paint yourself as a victim, but you forgot I was part of the story too." Jasmine shook her head, voice cracking. "Rod, don't." Kirk clenched his jaw. "What the hell you doing here, man?" But Rod didn't flinch. "I'm here because she didn't tell y'all the whole truth," he said, eyes burning into Jasmine. "And since she want to talk about fatherhood tonight, let's talk about who was really there." The cast gasped. Spice stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "What are you saying?" Rod smirked, not out of arrogance, but out of pain, the kind that grows from feeling replaced, lied to, erased. "I'm saying," he continued, "that Jasmine wasn't just dealing with Kirk." Dead silence fell like a blanket. Jasmine felt the world tilt. The room held its breath, waiting. "Rod, please," she begged. "Don't do this. Not like this." But Rod's voice cracked with the weight of years. "You should have told them," he said. "You should have told him." Kirk's face twisted. "Told me what?" Rod took a step closer, lowering his voice so the sting hit deeper. "Told you that while you were sneaking in and out of her apartment, she wasn't alone." Spice gasped. Kirk's eyes grew colder. Jasmine flinched. "Rod, stop!" Jasmine screamed, but the truth was already bleeding out. "I was there too," Rod said. "You weren't the only one she was messing with." The room exploded. Screams, curses, hands on heads, producers shouting for the cameras not to cut. Kirk shook with anger, betrayal mixing with the fear he'd been hiding all night. "You lying," he snapped, voice breaking. Rod laughed bitterly. "I got proof." He held up his phone, thumb hovering over a video file. Jasmine lunged toward him, but Spice and security caught her. "Don't show it," she cried. "Don't you dare show that." Rod looked at her, eyes softening for half a second. You should have told him, Jazz. You should have told the truth. Kirk's voice cracked. What truth? And then Rod said the first part of the twist. The child might not be yours. The scream that ripped from Jasmine broke the air. Kirk stumbled backward. Spice covered her mouth. Cast members cried out. But Rod wasn't done. You want to talk about stepping up? Rod said. You want to talk about fatherhood? Jasmine was seeing both of us, and the timeline matches. Jasmine sobbed so hard she could barely stand. Rod, please, please stop. No, he said. This has been eating me alive, too. You think it's just your story? It's mine, too. Kirk shook his head violently. This ain't possible. But the fear in his eyes betrayed him. Spice whispered, Oh my God. Then Rod delivered the second twist, the one that made the first feel like nothing. You want to know why Jasmine really came here tonight? Rod asked. The room leaned in. Jasmine shook uncontrollably. Because the child, the one she told Kirk about, the one she told me about. Jasmine screamed, Rod, stop! Rod shouted over her. Was never confirmed. She never did a DNA test. She never knew which one of us was the father. Gasps crushed the air. Jasmine collapsed. Kirk grabbed his head in agony. Spice staggered like she'd been punched. And Rod whispered the final blow. And if y'all think that's the end, the adoption agency reached out. They want the father to step forward. Both of us. Kirk froze. Rod stared him down. Jasmine sobbed uncontrollably, and the entire cast realized this wasn't just drama. This was a ticking bomb, and the truth was about to explode again. The moment Rod's bombshell dropped, when he said both men were being called to step forward, the entire club erupted into the kind of hysteria reality TV can't manufacture, only capture. People screamed like they were watching a car crash happen in slow motion. Security rushed forward, not knowing who they were supposed to protect, who they were supposed to restrain, or who they were supposed to escort out before the cameras caught something too real. Spice, still shaking with equal parts fury and disbelief, grabbed the nearest table just to stay standing, eyes darting between Kirk, Jasmine, and Rod like she was witnessing the collapse of an entire universe in real time. Jasmine was on the floor sobbing, not the dramatic cry for attention kind, but a gut-deep, broken, terrified cry that echoed across the room. Her hands trembled so violently she couldn't even wipe her own tears. I didn't know, she choked over and over. I swear I didn't know. I was young. I was stupid. I was alone. But her confession only fueled the fire. Cast members surrounded her in a messy circle of shock and judgment. Carly Red yelling, How could you not know whose baby it was? Bambi shaking her head like she couldn't believe she was even breathing the same air in that room. And Mama D pacing back and forth, whispering, The palace is falling. The palace is falling. Like some dramatic queen in a Shakespeare play. Meanwhile, Kirk Frost, usually calm, collected, and annoyingly composed, looked like he had been punched in the soul. His eyes were wild, his chest rising fast, his face pale with a terror that wasn't just about the possibility of fatherhood, but the possibility of being exposed as a liar in front of every camera and every cast member he'd tried to outsmart for years. This ain't right, he muttered, voice cracking. This ain't possible. But it was, and everyone in that room knew it. Rod wasn't backing down either. He stood tall, jaw tight, shoulders up, chest heaving, not triumphant, but devastated, angry, betrayed in his own right. I wanted to step up, he said, voice thick, but she pushed me away. She told me it wasn't mine. Spice turned slowly toward Jasmine, voice trembling with shock. You told both of them different stories? Jasmine wailed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to ruin anyone's life. The crowd roared louder. A producer yelled, We need Rashida in here. And Spice spun around so fast her wig nearly shifted. No, she shouted. Rashida don't need this right now. She don't deserve this. But it didn't matter what Spice wanted. Outside the club, fans were gathering. Social media was blowing up. The clip of Kirk swinging, Spice stumbling, Jasmine screaming, and Rod walking in with the receipts had already hit Twitter. People were choosing sides before the episode even finished filming. Kirk foul, Jasmine messy, Rod petty. Spice didn't deserve that slap. Rashida better run. Inside the club, the emotional fallout grew uglier. Kirk's voice started cracking as he paced in tight circles. There was no baby after that, Jasmine. You told me you lost it. You told me. Jasmine screamed from the floor. I lied because I panicked. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't handle being destroyed on TV again. Rod stepped closer, throwing fuel on the fire. Then you should have told the truth back then. Jasmine shrank into herself, shoulders shaking uncontrollably. I was scared, she whispered. I didn't want my son to be caught between two men, or grow up with confusion and chaos. Spice's eyes softened for a half-second, seeing Jasmine not as an enemy, but as a terrified mother drowning in decisions she made too young. But that sympathy didn't last long, because another producer ran in breathless, shouting, Rashida's on the way. She's 5 minutes out. The entire room froze. Kirk grabbed his head, whispering, No, 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 no. Jasmine's tears doubled as she cried, Please don't let her walk into this. Please. She'll hate me forever. Spice held her breath, her heart breaking for her friend's marriage. Rod straightened his jacket like he was preparing for war, and the whole cast scrambled, some trying to flee, some trying to brace themselves, some trying to figure out how to survive the explosion that was about to walk through the door. Then the final blow hit the room like a second earthquake. The club owner ran up to security, whispering loudly enough for everyone to hear. The adoptive family reached out. They're in Atlanta. They're coming here. Jasmine fainted. Spice screamed. Kirk nearly collapsed. And everyone realized the next person to walk through that door might not be Rashida, but the child whose identity was about to tear this entire cast apart. The moment the words, "The adoptive family is coming here," spread across the room, the atmosphere shifted into something cold, electric, and terrifying. It wasn't just drama anymore. This was destiny walking toward them with heavy footsteps and no warning. Jasmine's body gave out completely as she crumpled to the floor, Spice and two producers rushing to catch her before her head hit the ground. Kirk was pacing like a man possessed, grabbing his hair, whispering to himself, trying to replay every lie, every memory, every night he wished would stay buried. Rod stood tall, jaw tight, fists clenched, bracing for a truth he had secretly feared for years. And then the door opened, not with Rashida's fire, but with a slow, heavy silence. A woman stepped inside first, mid-40s, composed, carrying a folder with trembling hands. Beside her, a man walked in, eyes cautious but determined, and behind them was the boy, the same boy who had been searching. The same boy whose identity had just shaken the entire club. He stepped forward with quiet confidence, scanning the chaos like he already knew half the room was lying to him. Kirk froze. Jasmine gasped awake. Spice covered her mouth. The adoptive mother spoke first, voice soft but sharp enough to cut through every breath in the building. We didn't want to do this here, but we saw the video. We saw everything. The boy stepped forward, locking eyes with Kirk first, then Rod, then Jasmine. I need answers, he said, and I'm not leaving without them. Rod swallowed hard. Kirk's lips trembled. Jasmine burst into tears again. The adoptive mother opened the folder and pulled out a sealed manila envelope. We brought something, she said, the original paperwork, the one filed the night he was surrendered. Kirk's entire body locked up. Spice watched him like a hawk. Jasmine shook her head violently. No, please, don't open that. But the boy took the envelope, hands steady, almost emotionless. They told me something, he said, voice low. Something I didn't know until today. Kirk couldn't breathe. What? What did they tell you? The boy swallowed, looked Kirk dead in the eyes and said, They said the man who dropped me off wasn't Rod. Rod exhaled sharply like he had been punched. Jasmine let out a strangled cry. No, don't say it. But the boy kept going, louder now, voice shaking, eyes burning. They said the man who handed me over, the man who signed the emergency papers, the man who disappeared after midnight. He stepped closer to Kirk, face inches from his, was wearing your jacket. The room exploded, half screams, half silence, half disbelief. Kirk stumbled backward into a table, knocking over bottles and glasses as he shook his head in pure terror. No, that's not true. That's not true, Jasmine screamed. Kirk, tell the truth. Rod shouted, Explain that if you can. Spice stepped between them, trembling, voice cracking. Kirk, did you drop that baby off? Kirk's mouth opened, but nothing came out. His eyes darted wildly, searching for an escape, a lie, a memory, something that could save him. But before he could speak, the boy tore open the envelope. Papers spilled out, official forms, signatures, timestamps, and on the top page was a signature, a rushed, sloppy, barely legible signature, but clear enough for everyone in the room to read. Spice gasped. Jasmine collapsed again. Rod's eyes went wide. Cast members screamed. And Kirk Frost looked like his entire life had just been ripped out of his chest as the boy held up the paper and whispered the final twist. This is your signature. The club fell into a silence so deep it felt like the air itself stopped moving. Kirk stared, shaking, pale, completely destroyed. I don't remember. I swear I don't remember. And the boy looked him dead in the eyes and said, Well, next week, we find out if you're lying, because I brought the DNA test. Cliffhanger. And now, as the truth trembles in the boy's hands, and Kirk Frost stands there stripped of every excuse he's ever hidden behind, the entire cast holds its breath, because what comes next isn't just gossip or drama, it's history. The kind of moment that changes families, friendships, legacies, and lives forever. Jasmine's tears still stain the floor. Rod's anger burns hot in his chest. Spice is torn between fury and heartbreak for her friend, and every camera in that club is locked on Kirk, waiting for him to finally speak the truth he's been running from for years. But the boy's final words hang in the air like a spell that can't be undone. Next week, we find out if you're lying. So, before part 2 unfolds, ask yourself what you would do if the past you tried to bury suddenly walked into the room with your face, your eyes, and your DNA test in hand. Would you confess? Would you run? Would you fight for the truth or hide behind another lie? And what if you were the child, caught in the middle of secrets grown adults refuse to tell? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Whose side are you on? Should Kirk tell Rashida everything before the test drops? Or should she hear the truth with the rest of the world? And is Jasmine finally ready to reveal the last piece of the story she's still holding back? Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and brace yourself, because the next chapter won't just expose the father. It will expose every lie that kept this family standing. And when the truth hits, nobody is walking away clean.